What's up again, everybody? Happy day after Thanksgiving. If you're in the US, you celebrated Thanksgiving yesterday. Congratulations, you made it. You ate lots of food, most likely. Maybe you didn't, I don't know. I'm not going to assume what you did, but I will say I did eat some good food. I made a ham yesterday. It was the first time I've made ham before. Turned out really good. And let's see, I also made green beans. It's like my favorite thing to make for the holidays, so I got to make green beans. If you're not in the US, I hope you had a good day yesterday anyway. Maybe you celebrated something, maybe you just had a normal day. Either way, I hope it was a good one. Today, we're going to do something that I alluded at in a video yesterday. So yesterday I posted a video and I talked about how there were some underrated heroes as far as Blitz is concerned based on this new skirmish season that has been kind of going on. And the last, spoiler alert, the last hero I mentioned on the list was Benji the Piercing Wind. Because I do think Benji has gotten actual new tools that he can take advantage of. And if you don't know Benji the Piercing Wind, you're about to, because we're going to sit down and make a Benji the Piercing Wind deck from start to finish. I'm going to show you my entire thought process. I'll talk you through what I'm thinking about, why I choose the things that I do, and then you can tell me where you would make changes as we go along. So before we go too far, though, I do think we need to say goodbye to the Patreon scroll thing so that you can see everything as best as possible. Goodbye, patrons. You're still in my heart. You're still in my heart. And the subs thing can go too. Though, if you want to make the sub number go up, there were a lot of people that pressed the button last time on yesterday's video. And you're awesome if you did that. And if you didn't do that, that's okay. You're still awesome. I still really like you. But if you want to hit the number, it'll make it go up. Okay, that way you can see the graph. Here's what I mean. Like, if you look, you can see like the graph as we go over here and that sort of stuff. Okay, so abusing Benji the Piercing Wind's ability, their effect. You want to look for 2 or less attack actions, right? We can look through all of these attacks, and we can see some of these would perhaps be like what you would think natural fits. Like, for example, like the blue blackout kick is a 2 attack, but it does come with this little combo effect. I wish I could zoom in like that and it would make this bigger. It does come with a combo effect that if you've played it, then it would get +3. So it would go to 5 and they could block it. Plus, this doesn't have go again, so we can't do anything on the back end of this. Crane Dance has yellow and blue in options, and technically Crane Dance can connect to find center, which is pretty good. So these are some considerations. And in fact, one way to build a deck, or one way I find myself building decks sometimes, is literally just jamming in all these things that pop out to me when looking down the list. Because again, if our focus is 2 attack or less things that our opponent can't deal with effectively from hand, then we should make a list of some of those cards and see where that falls. Flood of Force, sure, but it's really not good. I mean, technically, no. I can't even do it. I'm sorry. Flood of Force, I salute you, but you're not a good card in this current scenario, so I say no. Flusterfist is interesting because it does attack for 2 on blue, and it does cost 0, so you could Kodachi with it, and you could pitch it, and it blocks 3, but you have to put Open the Center in order for this to chain into something else. And like, it doesn't have go again. Flying Kick is almost always a consideration, even though it doesn't meet these requirements. We can come back to that though as well. The head jabs. Now we're talking. We got 2 go again, natural go again head jabs. The blue is attacks for 1, so it's kind of like another Kodachi. It's still fine. It's still fine. The blue leg taps, maybe we can pop those in as well. You do have to pitch for those though, so we do want to consider maybe our pitch values. Right now, a lot of our things are going to cost 0, which is good. It's kind of like we're playing 0 cost Cheerios Briar in that respect. Rising Knee Thrust, if you have leg taps, makes some sense because both these 2 attack. But we only run 2 leg taps, so the combo line here is pretty weak, and we can't search it out because we're not playing Katsu. Rushing River, meh. Again, if we are playing Torrent of Tempo, then this yellow rushing and blue rushing do connect. So I guess we'll put those in there, and then we'll look at Torrent of Tempo here in a second. Soulbead Strike, you do consider Soulbead Strike because the blue Soulbead Strike attacks for 2. Plus, if we do have the Crane Dances in here, then you have the full complete combo. I actually do put the consideration on 2 reds and 2 blues as well. We skip over Surging because none of it is what we're looking for. 5, 4, and 3. Torrent of Tempo. Okay, so Torrent of Tempo goes 5, 4, and 3. Do we want to sacrifice the like idea. And again, we're playing Blitz, so we have a 40 card deck, so it's pretty thin. Do we want to sacrifice the idea of like these 2s for playing Torrent of Tempo, which can provide a lot of threats? And if it hits, it does gain Go Again. If we do, then we do like these 2, right? Like the reds. But then we have like 2 things that link into Rushing Rivers, which are like, kind of not good. Without getting Go Again, it's like meh. So for my money, I would actually cut all Rushing Rivers and Torrent of Tempo. I knew that going into it. I just wanted to talk about it with you first so that you kind of got my thinking, because those do meet the requirements of 2 and 1, but the starter combo piece is not great. And then, honestly, when we kind of water this all down, we're probably going to end up cutting a lot of the combos anyway, because the combos don't end up providing that much consistency. And consistency is important in this format because high rolling is really good, but if you low roll, you lose, especially as a hero that is sort of underplayed. For perhaps the right reasons, I don't know, we'll find out. Adrenaline Rush cost 2, and it attacks for 2. But if you have less life, it attacks for 5. That's intriguing, but I think we want to skip it. Here's where we get really interesting. We got Belittles. 2 Belittles on yellow and 2 on blue because they attack for 2 and 1 apiece. And they can search you up a Minnowism, which is really interesting. They both have guaranteed Go Again. That is a very important thing. Guaranteed Go Again. Brandishes are also very intriguing because we're playing a build that runs 2 weapons. And so Brandish can hit, because 2 and 1, these are unblockable from hand. They can hit, and if they do, they're going to make our Kodachi following this stronger. So we would go like Kodachi, and then Brandish, and then Kodachi again, which would be pretty good overall, right? Not bad. Now this is where you get interesting kind of thought processes. Do you run something like a Coax or a Command and Conquer? I say yes. Let's put the Command and Conquers in. And then let's put the Enlightened Strikes in, and then let's put the Exude Confidences in. We'll talk about this card here in a moment. You could consider Phlox, but none of them meet that 2 or less requirement. Frontline Scout you could also consider, but I don't think it's worth it. Just period, end of story. It is a 0 that could be a 0 cost that could attack for 2 or 1 and gain Go Again if you play from the arsenal, but there's probably better effects than looking at your opponent's hand. Life for a Life is intriguing. You can play this if you have less life. Gains Go Again, and then if it hits, you gain 1 life. So blue Life for a Life's literal uber nuts for this deck. Nimble Strikes, blue, not really. Don't really care. It costs 1. That's the problem with Nimble Strike. None of these matter. The Overload question. Overload yellow and blue are interesting because if it hits, it gains Go Again. If it doesn't hit, then, like you don't have Go Again, your turn's basically over. And so it's kind of a weird card. It costs nothing though, so let's put it in there, and we'll come back to it later. Promise of Plenty is also really intriguing. We'll pop those in because they cost nothing, and they could gain Go Again from Arsenal, and that's another intriguing point. This is where things get weird. Ravenous Rabbles, okay, are guaranteed Go Agains. We're going to put them in, and then we'll talk about whether or not they matter going forward. It's a very interesting thing. And then Scars. Do you run the red Scar just because it's really good and attacks a breakpoint, or do you run the blue Scars? Let's put the blue Scars in, and we can always revisit and come back to the red Scars later. Oh man, this is such a pretty alternate art. I wish I had that card. That'd be a really good one. Technically, you could consider Scour the Battlescapes. I used to have a Benji deck that actually did run Scour the Battlescapes. In fact, I think I had a... Weirdly enough, I think I had a Katsu deck that ran those too, just for fun, because it does cycle. It like churns through your deck in a fun way. And then finally, we're going to talk about this Snatch. Blue Snatch, I think, is a shoe-in for the deck because it attacks for 2, and no, it doesn't have Go Again, but it draws you a card. And this is the fundamental thing about an effect like Benji's. Benji is almost guaranteeing that your opponent has, like, no recourse when it comes to an attack that has an on-hit effect. So if we have weapons or attacks or anything that has an on-hit effect, we can almost guarantee that it will trigger, unless your opponent really overcommits to stop it by like keeping equipment or, arsenaling a defense reaction. and playing said defense reaction against like a blue snatch. So again, going down to this blue snatch, where, oh, I passed it because no, it's right here. If it hits draw a card, I mean, that's a very simple effect, right? But blue snatch does threaten drawing a card, and it threatens 2 damage, and then if you pop Snapdragon Scalers on it, it gives you, the ability to keep going. Okay, so looking at this deck, this is one other thing that I wanted to talk about with regards to the way this is structured. Benji oftentimes runs a lot of yellows and blues, because if we're looking at how this is structured, and if we're looking at pitch costs, a lot of the reds are pushing out of the range of like being unblockable, right? And a lot of the yellows can fall under it, especially if you're running generics, can fall under that range of like 2. And then going down, looking at the blues, a lot of these attack for 1. They're basically other Kodachis, but some of them have nice little on-hit effects. Like for example, Promise of Plenty, if it hits, you get to arsenal a card. Okay, if you don't have an arsenal. Life for a Life, if it hits, it attacks for 2. If it hits, you gain a life. Okay, Snatch, if it hits, draw a card. So all of these kinds of effects are added benefit to running something like a Benji, which is an unheard of hero in general. It also means that if you're running blue cards, a lot of blue cards, having a Ravenous Rabble, even though it attacks for 4 base, makes a lot of sense, because if this 4 comes across and then flips over a blue card on top, then it's really coming across for 1. So these Ravenous Rabbles, red and yellow, and heck, even blue. Technically the blue's kind of overkill, because if it hits a blue off the top, it attacks for 0. But these Ravenous Rabbles make a ton of sense because of the way that Benji's effects work. Benji looks for, oh, and this is down here, Benji looks for the attack. It doesn't look for like base attack, it looks for what the attack is. Okay, so if you like buff up something really strong, then it isn't unblockable, which is why his ability is sort of interesting, because after one of your attacks hit, the next one is less likely to be unblockable because he gives himself a buff. So it's really curious in that respect. Now, looking at how many of these cards we actually included is an important thing. We have 48 just attack actions. We haven't talked about why I think Benji is so underrated, and we will in a moment. I do also want to point one more thing out. If we are running all of these blues, that means we're going to have extra resources in general, because a lot of these things cost 0. Okay, we're running a lot of blues, a lot of things cost 0. So what do we want to sink extra resources into? Well, something like an Exude Confidence would be perfect for that. If you have 2 blues in hand, and maybe you had something that drew you a card throughout the turn, like a Mask of Momentum, then you draw into a blue and you play Exude Confidence to end your turn. It got buffed because your previous thing hit, maybe from Benji's effect. So it's attacking for 5. Your opponent's like, okay, now I can block. I'm going to block with like 2 cards from hand. And then you just Exude Confidence ability, pitch away like a blue and buff it up and still push damage. So things that we have, if we have extra resources floating, we can just pump them into something like an Exude Confidence. Enlightened Strike, even though it's attacking for 5, is still great because you can hit the draw card and then you can like give it go again with your boots, or you can just go +2 for like a big attack for 8 after you choose +2 and then get a pump from Benji, or just go again so that you can do this nice long ninja string of attacks. Now, what was I going to talk about? Oh, the reason that we could play Benji, and the reason that this deck could be underrated, is because this deck can just become a plunder run deck. I don't know why I didn't run all the plunder runs in the world last time I played this, because Plunder Run is so incredibly good when your opponent can't block anything, because it says the next time an attack action card you control hits, draw a card. And yes, if you play this from Arsenal, then it will be giving a buff and making your opponent maybe be able to block it. But if they block the first one and you follow it up with another 2 attack and it hits, you just draw a card off that one. So Plunder Run is really good in general, and Plunder Run when your opponent is like not able to block attacks is also really good. So this is a Plunder Run deck, pure and simple, and we're gonna try to make our opponent not able to deal with all of the attacks. Now, by the way, if you notice, we have 55 cards out of 52. That is far too many. So let's kind of go through and comb away some of these attack actions. I like the Belittles because they are natural go-agains. We do have to pitch for them, though. I like the Brandishes because they are natural go-agains and they give a buff to our weapon. I like Command and Conquer because it's really good. I will keep Crane Dances, but I don't know how many. That's going to be kind of a curious thing, because Crane Dance into Find Center using the boots, even if you don't hit the combo, is pretty solid. I love Head Jabs because go again. I love Leg Tap, but not a ton. I'm kind of iffy on Overloads. I'm kind of iffy on the Promises. We already cut the Blue Ravenous, I think. I'm not crazy about these Red Soul Beads because your opponent just blocks it out and your turn's over, so we can cut those. We're obviously keeping the Plunder Runs. The Snatch and the Scar are both fine. In fact, you can probably consider tossing this Scar. Though this is an interesting point as well. Scar for Scar gains go again if we have less life. We start on 17, so if you draw it in your opening hand, it's just free go again. Here's the crazy thing: we can honestly go 1 and 1, and then keep the 2 there, and then have 1 Find Center, and that would probably be fine. Overload versus Promise of Plenty. If it hits go again, it's probably better, but this draws us a card as well, which means our turn can go longer. So these two are the really interesting. Maybe we just go no blue and then no blue, and so we have the yellows here. It's guaranteed go again, and that's really good in this deck, but I'm not crazy about paying 1 for this attack. Let's cut it for now because we don't have anything that connects to it. These two, yeah, sure, are probably fine. Command, probably 2 of those commands is still good. I'd like to free up more room in the deck in general. So we got to cut something. This is the downfall to me of this method of building, is that I get married to play lines, and then I don't like it when I have to cut stuff. Maybe I cut the Belittles. Blues. I think I always keep these Brandishes, though. Both of them, because they buff up our attacks. And if they hit, they buff up our attack a second time. So it basically makes your weapon attack for 3, which is pretty cool. Weapon could attack for 3. Or you could push something else up as well. Cutting other things. I don't love cutting other things. I didn't have Ravenous Rabble in here before. I will say that. And so maybe we get rid of that. I could also argue just not even needing something like a Soul Bead Strike. That kind of makes sense to me. Cutting Soul Bead. If we're ever going to hit this combo, where is it, the Crane Dance into Find Center, then we're just going to do it with the boots. Where we go Crane Dance, pop the boots, Find Center, and get the combo effect off this. Do we care about that, though? Do we ever care about that? I don't know. Maybe we cut the blue Head Jabs. It's 1 with guaranteed go again. We could cut that. We cut one, Promise of Plenty down. I feel like this is solid. It's playing it from Arsenal, though. Maybe that's the tricky thing. These Ravenouses as well are interesting, but they are guaranteed go again, and they are pretty pumpy as far as power level is concerned. 5, if we hit a blue, drops to 2. If we hit a yellow, it drops to 3, so it can be blocked. Maybe we just run the yellows, because if we hit a blue, it goes to 1. If we hit a yellow, it goes to 2. It's only when it hits a red that it goes to 3. Here's the reason why I want to make more cuts. 1, because we have 2. No, we have exact. Look, we're at 34 attack actions. And then 6 non-attacks. But I want to include a couple other things. I want to include Razor Reflexes. I want to include Razor Reflexes because there's this interesting thing that you can do. Your opponent has to play down blocking cards. And if they can't, then they don't, right? And then when you move to reactions, you can use reactions to buff up your attack. Now, if they have a defense reaction, they could respond with a card from hand if it's over 2 now. Because, Benji's effect is basically turned off for that attack. It's no longer a 2 attack. But they can't go backwards in time and play cards down in the blocking kind of portion. They can only really respond with defense reactions. So Razor Reflexes are really good combat tricks in this exact setup to push damage. Plus, they're going to be played on target attack action cards. And if they are played on those attack action cards, they can grant go again. So even if it doesn't connect, you're giving something go again. So maybe we don't need to rely on something like these Ravenuses, because we can just grant go again to, an attack at some point. I kind of like these Ravenuses, though. But this is the thing. I get married to cards when I deck build. What if I just cut them for now? I don't like this overload. It's like almost never going to matter, right? The dominate effect. And if it hits go again, like there's a lot of cards. But it's going to guarantee hit, so it's almost like it's printed go again. It's like a 2 for 0. What if I just cut all of this combo line? What if I just cut 1, 2, 3, 4 cards right there? The other thing I want to put in is Art of War, because Art of War, banishing an attack and drawing 2 cards, we're almost always hitting attacks with this deck. And Art of War, you do that and then you choose maybe go again or something like that. It's another way to grant go again to something like a Command and Conquer, or you can put it on E-Strike or Exude Confidence. Put it on these Crane Dances. Technically, maybe you keep those around for that. What are we at? 30, 34, 42. Actually, we're pretty close. Interesting. Interesting. Maybe I cut this down to 1. See, most things already have go again. Art of War is an interesting one too. It's sort of like this back and forth, because if you give the +1 from Art of War, then it pushes most things out of range of being unblockable, unless you play a lot of 1s. And I don't really want to. The other thing we could do is put Minnowisms in, because Belittle can fetch Minnowism. So like if we run 2 red Minnowisms, then they can be fetched out by Belittle. Maybe you run like more Belittles though to grab the Minnowism. Nah, you probably run that. And then you run like exactly 2 Minnowisms. I could see that. Maybe you cut these head jabs, which are 1 for 0s. What are we at? 42, so we're 1 card over. It's kind of interesting. I put 2 yellow razors in here as well. That might be overkill, but it also might just kill our opponent. Non-attacks, let's see. If we cut that down, that actually might be good. What is this? This is 10 cards here, 13, and then, what is it, 27? Yes, this is 40 exactly. What does this look like if we zoom way out? Kind of looks weird. One of the things I'm thinking, like, so we only have these 2, and literally this is just in there for the combo, for hitting Find Center and getting a Zen State token, but I'm not sure that actually matters. Zen States are pretty cool, though. They're pretty memey. If you cut these, you know what? Let's just do this really quick. If you cut these, and then the Find Centers as well. You can include like some big power bomb cards like Flying Kick. Flying Kick's just really good. We're going to be playing stuff at like Chain Link 3 or higher, so this is just coming in for 7. And so it's just really good. And dropping that on your opponent is like, no, I'm dead. And then we would probably want some more attack. Like, we want mostly attacks in this deck. So what would we put back in? The blue head jabs? I don't think we want the leg taps back. Instant, Art of War. Some people say like maybe you include like life gain here, because you are starting at a life loss technically. Maybe you include like Sigil of Solace, or some people like the Sink Below. You could just drop a Sink Below in here. Maybe you do like exactly 1 Sink Below instead of 2. I still think you need more attacks. 25 seems so small. We could cut a razor and then do something else. We're keeping all the plunders. The Minnowism's cool. Minnowism's also interesting in that you play it down. It's always going to land, most likely. And Minnowism comes down and buffs your attack. That's most likely already getting a buff from Benji's effect. Put an overload back in. If we put that overload back in there, I guess. Yeah, I kind of want more attacks. Like, that's the problem. Maybe I do cut the Minnowism, like one Minnowism. It's fun that Belittle fetches it, though. Maybe you just invest more in Belittle Minnowism, and you put more Minnowisms in. But then you're still muddying your waters for attack actions. You can cut a razor. Let's just cut both yellow razors and include something else that like has just a straight up go again, or some beneficial on hit trigger. Like you could just type in the word hits, I guess. Hits. Bring Fine Center back in. We have to cut some other stuff. Soul Bead Strike gains go again. Whelming Gust Wave, no thanks. Brandish, no thanks. Cadaverous Contraband, just go fetching. Opting from Fervent Forerunner's interesting. This deck isn't going to block very well because there's a lot of two blocks. Notice our pitch has gone way down as well, which is intriguing. We've put a lot more. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, that's correct. Our pitch has gone way down. That's weird that it's gone so down. But it's because we've included some of these kinds of cards and cut a lot of the blues. We put Promise of Plenty back in. Gets us a card. Cycles, which is kind of fun. We need like one card. Put like one Promise of Plenty in. If it hits, get a thing. Yeah, we'll do that. Maybe you cut the Minnowism, you go like one more of those, and like do I have the blue? Yeah, I still have the blue scars in here. What if we cut one more Minnowism and get one more attack in? Again, we want like a critical mass of attacks. We don't care about non-attacks. Like, this is not Briar where she wants non-attacks to like generate stuff. Like, we don't really care about non-attacks. Looking at non-attacks, you like Captain's Call, they play that in aggro Briar. It doesn't really matter here. It gives +2, so it pushes things out of range, which is kind of bad for us. Let's see. Lead the Charge is cute, but not great. Nimblism is cute, but I guess we could put pumps in, but we don't really. I don't know. It's something worth considering. Maybe you do build a deck, like a version of the deck where your goal is to go like Kodachi, attack that can't be blocked, and then a giant attack. So you'd like pitch for the Kodachi, play a 0, have a 3-card hand or something like that. Play out like Plunder Run or Plunder Run before, and you know, just drop like Nimblisms or buffs in some other way, and then just come at your opponent with that. That might be intriguing as well. We've got 2, 3, 10, 12, and 28. Yeah, something like this. Something like this makes some sense. So this could be one way that you build a Benji deck that really pushes like all of these beneficial hit triggers. Belittle fetches the 1 Minnowism. The Brandishes buff up your attack. Exude Confidence is something you can sink some of these blues into if you have a lot of blues. You do have some blues here that you can pitch away to Kodachi. A lot of these are blue, or sorry, a lot of these cost 0, I should say. The overloads can go again off hit. These draw you cards off hit. Scar, you know, has go again if you have less life, which is likely. Then you have big attacks like Flying Kick, Command and Conquer, and Light and Strike. Exude Confidence is kind of a big attack. You can razor some stuff for some tricks. You have all the plunder runs in the world, and then the Art of Wars. Maybe you're like, maybe cut those and then put something else in. I could see that. You maybe cut and put in more low attacks that can just go super wide, or things that draw you cards, like more draw card. I don't know if there's any more draw card effects. Draw. Like, I guess technically we could play Ancestral Empowerment. I guess we could try. Nah, Whelming Gust Wave, because you gotta play Surgings. It just doesn't make much sense. Yeah, I don't know. There's not much else that we want to play that draws you a card. outside of those. Don't want to play Tome. Don't want to play Sunkiss. Yeah, that seems like the general consensus. Maybe you swap in one. Whoa, what did I just do? I've exploded everything. Game over, everybody. Maybe you can cut one Art of War and then put in like an Ancestral, or maybe you cut both Art of Wars and then put in 2 Ancestrals because it draws you a card. But none of these are ninja attacks. Like ninja, that's about it, right? Yeah, so now you just keep that. All right, finally equipment. Let's just go to weapons and equipment. The double Kadachi, the Mask of Momentum. Mask of Momentum is great because your opponent is less likely able to stop you from comboing off. If like they don't block the second Kadachi and you play a 2 attack and they just like don't commit equipment to it or can't, then you just get a free draw card, which is great when all your stuff has go again. You can run the Spring Tunic because we do have a fair bit of things that cost 1, and so we can pay the Tunic resource to pay for that and not have to drop a card from hand. But if you don't want to, then you do maybe Hardened Crossstrap on the turn that you play Command and Conquer. What else could you do? You could play. Let's look at chest pieces. What else could you do? You could do Hardened Crossstrap, like I said. I guess you could do Vest of the First Fist, which is kind of cute. That's kind of fun. Let's go ahead and finish the we obviously know the leg equipment is going to be, where is it at? Snapdragon Scalers. Arm. Breaking Scales doesn't make a ton of sense. It blocks, but there's like no combo attack action cards in your deck, so it doesn't do anything there. If you wanted something that blocked, then you can jam like Ironhide Gauntlet. Technically Goliath is literally just for Command and Conquer, but maybe you want to run that. I don't know. It's up to you. Stubby Hammer is pretty spicy. It kind of like defeats the purpose, but it's pretty spicy in this build. Yeah, no, I think it defeats the purpose a little too much. Which is just funny to me. Maybe you just do this for the block. It's probably fine. I can't imagine it being not fine. I think what else did I put? I can't remember. But then there's also this. We have to like literally load up with null rune stuff like gloves, robe, hood. Because we're playing in a meta with Kano, we can actually pitch fairly effectively against Kano if we wanted to stop like some of those big swings. So maybe we do include the boots just for fun. And that puts us really close. We're like 1 card away. We're always going to play Mask of Momentum. Fyendal Spring Tunic, Breaking Scales, I guess. Snapdragon. If you wanted to, you could swap out Breaking Scales for like Goliath Gauntlet, or Hardened Crossstrap could go in as well. We might as well put Hardened Crossstrap in there. And then just we don't have to pay for the Command and Conquer on that turn, which is pretty fun. But outside of that, yeah, that's basically us. That's us in a nutshell, guys. There it is. Boom. Deck done, complete. This is a way you could build Benji, the Piercing Wind, using double Kadachi. You could even get really spicy and do the Zephyr Needle, which is Benji's actual weapon. But I don't want things to break. I'm risk averse, I guess. Here's just like attacks that have some strength to them over here, attacks that just are really difficult for your opponent to block. You could lay even more heavily into this, but the point is you play plunder runs, you draw more cards, you play more attacks. It just goes like that. And then some of the attacks get stronger as you go. Maybe you Art of War. Plus you can Art of War defensively if you have to play defensively. Got a couple of attack reactions and Razor Reflex. Yeah, that's basically where Benji wants to be. I'm curious. I'm gonna give this deck a try pretty soon and see what tweaks I would make. Let me know what you think in a comment below. What tweaks would you make to this deck? I'd love to hear how you plan to take Benji in a new direction. If you think Benji is something you've never tried, maybe you should give it a shot. Anyway, if you like this video, if you liked the thought process behind building the deck, don't forget to leave a like and the subscribe for supporting the channel. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.